Hey, that's me and my family. I'm Molly Joy, and I'm here to share the things that bring us joy today. Hey everyone, it's Molly. The video today is about the program called Layers of Learning. It's a curriculum that covers lots of different subjects, and when I was looking into it, I didn't find a lot of information online about it, so I thought I would share with you a little bit more about the program and how we have started to use it. I'll do a little bit of a flip through and just kind of explain the summary of how it works. Little background, our family is a family of 10. We have 7 kids at home, and 3 of those children will be doing the bulk of the Layers of Learning curriculum with us. We have been homeschooling for, I believe, 7 going on 8 years, and I've bounced around to different curriculums throughout that time. We started out using more of a boxed curriculum, and I quickly learned that I'm not really a rule follower, and I kind of like to do my own thing. I found myself skipping a lot of the activities or projects, or adding my own things in, or subbing out different resources and books. And by the end of the year, often I felt like we really didn't even utilize the curriculum a lot of the way that it was supposed to be. Then I started to dive in a little bit to pulling things together myself almost from scratch, and I found that to be a lot of work, and I just didn't have the time for it, even though I really did enjoy doing it. So as I have searched for curriculums through the years, especially for the topics like science and history and those things, I wanted to be sure to find a curriculum that fits in a family style of learning, because we have a pretty wide age range of learners. I also really like the unit study style approach, but I also like studying in chronological order, and I didn't find a lot of options that combine those two things. There's a lot of great programs out there. There's a lot of great unit studies out there. There's a lot of great history studies that are chronological, but I was hoping to tie in as many subjects as I could that could relate to each other. I also wanted something that was somewhat customizable, that I didn't feel like I had to just follow the instructions and check all the boxes, and I wanted lots of ideas without having to do them all or feel like I was missing out on something if I didn't. And most of all, I hope to find something that we just enjoyed as a family, that we could really learn from in a way that sparked our interest, that made learning fun, that all of my kids could jump in on, that we could take rabbit trails and dig into topics that we wouldn't have normally come across. So then I ran across Layers of Learning. I actually ran across it because I was doing some kind of a survey on a website. On the list of different curriculum companies that were talked about in that survey was Layers of Learning. And it was in a unit study category, and it was one that I had never heard of, so I decided to look into it a little further. And I looked on their website and instantly was intrigued, because it really did seem like what I was looking for. The website is excellent as far as explaining the curriculum. They have a guide page that really walks you through step by step. But I'm also kind of the type that I really like to see it and, if possible, touch it before I make a final decision. And it was one curriculum that I really couldn't find a lot on as far as reviews or YouTube videos or photos of the inside. They have a Facebook group, which is excellent, but again, not a lot of inside peeks at the actual curriculum itself. And that's a lot of the reason I ended up getting on YouTube, is because I wanted to help people who maybe weren't finding resources that I may have available that I could share. So as far as Layers of Learning goes itself, I have mine organized in a binder. I print mine out, so I order it in the PDF format. You can also order it bound. I have a very efficient printer, so it works just fine for me to print it. Layers of Learning covers 4 topics: history, science, geography, and art. All of the subjects correlate with each other. For example, you might study Africa as a continent geographically at the same time as you're studying ancient Egypt and the Nile River, at the same time as you're studying hieroglyphics in art, at the same time as you're studying, trying to think, maybe deserts in science. Those are just examples of how all 4 of those subjects can line up together. So the writers of Layers of Learning, there are 2 sisters, and they wrote the first edition of Layers of Learning, which is now called the Classic Edition, quite a few years ago. And they're in the process of putting together a new edition. And the new edition is what I have, but they're just coming out with that now, and it's very similar to the old edition. I maybe will do a comparison of the old and the new for you, because you can still purchase the old edition in PDF format. But I do have the new edition. And all 4 of those subjects you purchase separately, whereas in the old edition you would buy 1 unit and it would include all 4 of those subjects in the unit itself. They don't have the whole second edition complete yet, and they're working on it themselves, so they're just coming out with approximately 1 unit per month. If you go to their website, they do have this online, but I'll show you here. This has been a huge help for me when it comes to organization and just planning and looking at what's offered when. This is the units at a glance, page year 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it lists the history, geography, science, and art, and what topics are talked about in each of those subjects. So I have printed here the Ancient Egypt unit, which is the second unit in year 1. And I will flip through a little bit here. Here's all the units of the Ancient History series, which is year 1, along with some of the other things that you can get to go along with it, which I'm not going to go into all of those things in this video. I'm just going to do an overview of the curriculum itself. But when you open up, you have, to start with, a bit of a summary of the topic that you're going to learn about, as well as a unit overview that discusses key concepts, vocabulary, words, and important places. On this side, in each unit, it shows you this chart, and there's yellow, green, and blue smiley faces. And next to each of the activities and resources in the curriculum, you'll find those that will help you as far as the age guide for what each activity or resource goes with which age is the best. Each unit, they also have resources online. They have a YouTube playlist, they have links, and you just have to go to their website and all of those are available. You don't even have to be using Layers of Learning in order to make use of those resources. They also often have a book that they would recommend as a family read aloud while you're going through this unit. And then the whole unit itself is broken up into 3 steps. The first step is the library list, the second step is the explore step, and the third step is show what you know. So the library list is what you start out with. Basically, it's to begin learning about a topic, you research it. So they give a whole bunch of excellent books to help you do that. And they also give you, which I think is really helpful, words that you can search for on your library search list. For example, ancient Egyptian civilization, or the Nile River Valley, mythology, King Tut, all of these things that you can use to find resources if they don't have these exact ones at your library. So they're really helpful in that way. The next step is the explore step, and this is kind of the fun part where you're doing projects, you're using what you have learned and adding to it and learning new things through things like projects, maybe field trips. Each unit also has a printable pack that comes with it for some of the more hands-on activities. There's a few things that are similar to worksheets, narration pages, maps, some projects that you gotta cut things out and so on. This is an example of one from Unit 1 of Year 1. What I've done is just download the printable pack onto my phone, and then as we go throughout our week, if we come across a project that needs a printable page, then I just print it straight off my phone onto the printer and we use it right away. There's so many things, and they have just endless ideas in this exploration or the explore step. And you'll notice that throughout the whole unit you'll see these sidebars that are colored, and there are things like additional layers, so just other topics you could dig into deeper, books you could read, random facts. If you're utilizing the writer's workshop component of Layers of Learning, they've got writing ideas. You'll notice that I have some little orange stars throughout of just different things that I thought our family personally would enjoy. I can go through more in another video of how I prepare and plan for each unit. So there's just simple projects. Most of them use pretty basic supplies, so you don't need a huge amount of prep time to do any of these. A lot of the explorations in here use the printable pack, which comes with the unit. Then at the end of each unit, you'll find step 3, which is the show what you know step, and it gives you tips on doing narration pages, a poster, writing project, and also the Big Book of Knowledge, which is kind of a quiz game that they came up with to tie in and to use as review down the road. There's also trivia questions. I'll also do a quick flip through of the science and geography units. I do not have the art unit currently. So that was science, and that was talking about planet Earth in the Earth and Space category of Year 1. And geography for Year 1 is talking about people and planet, and the second unit in that year is Africa. As far as faith or religious topics, a lot of people ask where Layers of Learning stands in teaching those things, biblical perspective, secular, and so on. The authors of Layers of Learning have shared that they feel like those things are better taught by the parents in a way that fits each family specifically. And a lot of those things, they have a more hands-off approach, and they want you to pull in those things that apply to your family instead of specifically teaching it within the units. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. It's easy to rely on curriculum to teach a lot of things to our kids, and we forget about the heart matters, and we forget that we need to really be active and have a personal role in teaching them things of the heart. For myself, we are Christians, and we just pull in a lot of biblical resources, Christian resources. For example, for history, we pull in master books curriculum called The World Story that is really heavily influenced on biblical history that I really appreciate. And so when the units in that book relate to the units in this history, we'll read a little bit out of that book, and that goes for all the topics. One thing that I have noticed just in the little bit that I have done so far of Layers of Learning is that they do have an old world view. So they do refer to things like millions of years ago, or even how different things evolve through time, not specifically evolution in the way that people came from monkeys, but just the evolution of the passing time through the many, many years. And because this is such a customizable curriculum, it's not hard to teach it to match your own worldview. And I think I'm going to run into that very little in this curriculum. It was more just in these first beginning units that some of those topics came up. I'll show you a few of the resources that we use to go along with the Layers of Learning topics. They recommend a lot of the encyclopedia style books, and I had all of these before we even started on Layers of Learning. So there's the Children's Encyclopedia, the Science Encyclopedia, Geography, and History. And I believe Usborne also has an art one that they recommend as a good resource too. And then I have some DK books that are the smaller ones that go along with the year one topics. And like I said, I had these before. I use this Master Books one as well as Story of the World when it ties into the history topics. I have this science curriculum, and we had started this before we started Layers of Learning, but we probably will continue to work through it, tying in a lot of the same topics as they relate in Layers of Learning. For example, the water and ocean and plants and different things as they tie into the Layers of Learning units. There's this student atlas, and I think this is one of them that they recommend as a good atlas that goes with the curriculum. And then I also have this that I can tie in with our Bible. And another thing that I tie in is this Picture Smart Bible. We are just starting out on this as well, and I will be using these pages as they tie in with the history pages of the Layers of Learning history. So overall, I am really excited about Layers of Learning. I feel like it really does a good job at covering a huge variety of topics, and has excellent ideas, and is just a really good jumping off point. And I think it's going to fit really well with our family, and we've enjoyed all of the things that we've done so far. If you have anything specifically that you would like to see closer, or you have questions, if you would like some comparisons, or you want to know more about how I plan, some of those are videos that I plan on doing coming up, but if you have something specific, I'm happy to look at some of those more directly. Thanks for watching, and happy homeschooling.